Hey everyone, Robin from Backscatter here, and today we're taking a look at the new Sony RX100 Mark VI. This is the latest generation of one of our favorite compact camera lines for underwater photography. The RX100 VI is already our favorite on-the-go topside camera because it has a 200mm zoom lens and incredible image quality. The combination of the super powerful reach of the lens and the pocket-sized portability are what make this camera frickin' awesome. It's our new go-to for pretty much everything topside shooting, from wildlife all the way up to punk rock shows. Backscatter CEO Jim Decker took this camera on our recent expedition to the Solomon Islands to put it through its paces underwater, so let's dive in and break down what we learned. The first thing we need to cover is the 24 to 200mm lens, because this is the really cool feature driving this camera. Previous generations only had a 24 to 70mm lens, which didn't allow for tight shooting of smaller macro subjects underwater. Now with the 200mm zoom, we can get tighter at a much greater working distance for those smaller subjects. When you add on a macro accessory lens, you can take this to crazy levels of magnification and close focus ability in order to shoot super macro, which is awesome because we've never been able to do this on an RX100 before, but it is also a little tricky to properly execute. We'll go into some more detail about super macro shooting towards the end of the video, but for now, all you really need to know is that with the new 200mm lens, you can get much tighter macro-sized critters and fish portrait shots than ever before from the RX100 line. Wide-angle shots look fantastic with superb color, clarity, and sharp image detail, even in the most blown-out highlights. We've still got a 20-megapixel, 1-inch sensor that produces this fantastic image quality, which is among the best possible from all current compact cameras. This little camera can fire off 24 frames per second in RAW in continuous autofocus with over a 100-shot buffer. That's faster and better than some current SLR cameras. You'll only be able to take advantage of this speed when shooting with ambient light only, because the camera flash can't keep up with that insanely fast shooting speed. One thing to note is the lack of a manual flash power control, which limits your flash recycle time to the automatic only flash power output. For shooters who need maximum shooting speed when using strobes, this is a little bit of a setback, but for everyone else who just wants one less setting to worry about on their camera, well, it's one less control on your plate. Now, the autofocus performance is super fast and accurate, both in center spot and wide multi-point. It does a really good job of picking up the intended subject, even when there's competing elements in the frame. If the camera loses the focus on that subject, just release the half press of the shutter and reacquire a new lock. It's super easy. The video quality that comes from the RX100 VI is awesome, with recording options up to 4K at 30 frames per second, or you can even shoot 1080 HD at up to 120 frames per second, which allows you to slow your footage down for up to 4 times slow motion. Video is captured in H.264 at a maximum data rate of over 100 megabits per second. This is on par with current high-performance SLR and mirrorless cameras. Overall, video quality from the RX100 VI is among the best that current compact cameras have to offer. One big thing that we're stoked about is that the RX100 VI seems to have inherited the same new white balance performance found in the top-of-the-line Sony a7R III, which finally allows us to capture a good-looking ambient light-only custom white balance. At shallower depths, we're seeing color that no previous Sony camera was able to produce underwater. This is thanks to the new expanded color temperature range that the RX100 VI is able to execute. When going a little deeper, water still shifts a little bit more towards the magenta side than the blue side, so it is best to bring some video lights along to balance out the limitations of the ambient light only custom white balance. As far as housings go, at the time of making this video, we've got housings available from both Nauticam and Icolite. Icolite offers the more economical option with a lightweight polycarbonate housing, while Nauticam offers a machined aluminum housing. Both are solid platforms and they have their own benefits to bring to the table. One thing to note is that because of the new long zoom lens, you're not going to be able to use the same lens port for shooting both macro and wide angle. There are shorter port options that limit the camera to a zoom range of about 70 millimeters, which is required for shooting with the wide angle accessory lens in order to minimize that distance between the front of the camera lens and the rear element of the wide lens. What all this really means is that you just can't switch from macro to wide shooting without breaking an external O-ring seal. Honestly though, this isn't really that big of a deal, since we don't switch between shooting wide angle and macro underwater all that much, or really even between back-to-back dives from a boat. All in all, this just encourages you to stick to one shooting discipline and spend less time fiddling with your gear and sensitive optics in the water. Just keep in mind, you will need 2 different dedicated port setups, one for macro and one for wide angle. If you're shopping for an underwater compact camera right now, the most comparable models to put side by side with the RX100VI are going to be the Panasonic LX10 and the Olympus TG5. The RX100 is going to give you the best overall image quality from these 3 models, as well as the most zoom versatility. The LX10 is better suited for the underwater video enthusiast because it captures a better custom white balance at depth. The TG5 is going to be a lot easier to shoot macro and super macro with due to a greater focal range, so if tiny critters are your main jam, we'd recommend the TG5 over the RX100 just for the ease of shooting. If you want the most killer land camera that also works pretty dang well underwater, then RX100 is the camera for you. If you're stoked on the RX100VI like we are, and if you think this is your next camera, allow us to camera nerd out a little bit here as we go a little deeper into the super macro shooting challenges, because that's definitely something to be aware of. When shooting super macro, you're using a macro accessory lens of a certain power, typically +5, +10, or +15 power. The more powerful the lens, the closer and narrower the focus range of the camera becomes, basically making it exponentially harder to line up focus on your subject as your magnification power increases. This also locks you into a super narrow range and locks you into an ideal subject size based on the lens and the magnification power that you're using. Now you're going to be dealing with focal ranges of less than an inch, and your depth of field is going to be extremely thin. This means a few different things for us super macro shooters. One is that autofocus is going to be just about useless, requiring us to use manual focus mode. Fortunately, the RX100VI has a manual focus mode and a focus peaking feature, which outlines the sharpest part of the image in red on the screen, allowing us to know exactly when to snap the shot, even if our eyes aren't picking up that exact moment that our tiny subject comes into critical focus. Set the camera to manual focus mode and just push in and out from your subject while using focus peaking to make super macro shooting a whole heck of a lot easier. Honestly, this is the only way to really shoot super macro without massive frustration. Now, if you want a powerhouse of a compact camera that's easy to travel with, offers an incredible amount of versatility for both topside and underwater, and top shelf image quality, then the RX100VI is a camera for you. While it probably won't be our favorite overall compact camera this year for strictly underwater use, this definitely is our favorite for both topside and underwater use when we can only have one camera. If you have any questions, or if you want to learn more about the RX100VI, don't hesitate to reach out to us here at Backscatter. We dive, shoot, and service everything that we sell, and we're always happy to help out. We even lead underwater photo and video expeditions all over the world all year round, and we offer a ton of educational workshops and classes to take your underwater shooting to the next level. So consider making your next dive adventure a trip with us. We promise you'll have fun, and you'll probably learn more than just a thing or two about your camera system. I'm Robin from Backscatter signing off. Keep your O-rings clean and happy shooting.